Welcome into the Coach's Corner, another great episode. First, I want to say thank you for all our listeners and everything like that, as well as viewers now. We'll be doing a lot more of these Coaches Talk with myself and everybody with Phenom here, bringing multiple coaches around the region, around the country, everything like that, talking to them there. So make sure to subscribe, whether you're listening on the podcast or as on YouTube as well. Leave us some comments or anything like that there. So just wanted to jump right in here. My name is Patrick O'Brien here. I'm with Rick Lewis, founder of Phenom Hoops, and we're also now with a special guest, Independence head coach, high school, Preston Davis there. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Doing like everybody else, staying quarantined.
Yep. We got a great episode with you today here. So I'm gonna let Rick go here. This is what he loves to do here. So Rick, I'll let you take the floor here.
Well, first of all, thank you, Coach Davis, for being on our show today. I think you, without a doubt, are one of the premier high school coaches in the state of North Carolina, and you have a proven track record. I think more than anything else, Coach, you have a very unique background, and a lot of people in the Charlotte area may not know this. I know you were born and raised in Charlotte. You attended Independence High School as a player, and you won a state championship as a player in 1997. You came back to your alma mater, and you led them to a state championship in 2018, going 31-1.
Yeah.
Talk about your background and how you would describe Preston Davis, the player, and Preston Davis, the coach.
Well, as a player, I was a role player. Wasn't a star, nothing like that. I was young on that championship team, so I was able to kind of follow the lead of the older guys that had a lot of success and taught me a lot, helped make me a tough player. So I was very defensive minded, defensive oriented. I blocked shots, rebound, take charges, kind of did a lot of the dirty work to try to help our team win. Was lucky enough to, get a scholarship to play in college, continue, to grow as a player at Presbyterian. And I think for me, I just bring that same mentality to coaching. I try to get teams, get my teams to play tough, aggressive,
Right.
Doing everything it takes, all the little things it takes to try to win games and try to win, championships. So it's paid off. We were able to, have a lot of success, with turning the program back around and getting it back to an elite level. So.
Well, that's the one thing I've always noticed about your teams, Coach, is when I watch an Independence team, they're going to play hard and they're going to play tough and they're going to play excellent defense. And you also are underrated as far as the nice sets you run offensively as well. So not only are you a great motivator as a coach on the sideline, but you're a good X's and O's coach. Now, I noticed on social media you have the Twitter handle Coach Davis 45.
Yeah.
Where did you get the number 45 from?
Well, in high school, being one of the younger guys, there wasn't that many numbers left. I had last pick, so I didn't really want to wear 00. And I convinced myself, I like everybody else, well, like most everybody else, I was a Jordan fan when I was younger, and that was one of the numbers he picked when he came back out of retirement. So I went with 45, not to say that I was Jordan, but I was like, if he can wear it, then I could, definitely try to, just wear it. It was cool enough to wear it, put it like that.
Now, you played at Presbyterian from 1999 to 2003. What was the biggest adjustment you had as a player going from high school to college?
I would honestly say the physicality and the speed of the game. Obviously, each level that you go up, the athletes become better and better.
Right.
I was real skinny, real slim coming out of high school. I had played against bigger opponents that were talented, but going to college and just the everyday physicality that it has in practice and just working out and just the intensity level, it was just a notch higher than high school. So I really had to adjust to that. luckily for me, I developed some mental toughness in high school, so I was able to kind of, make the adjustment. I mean, just like every freshman, it's an adjustment period, but you get used to it and you figure things out, and you have a chance to become the best player that you can be. So it worked out for me. I had a lot of success, just my team.
Well,
my teammates.
that follows up on the next question. What
Mhm.
lessons did you learn as a player that carried over to you as a coach?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of lessons you learn in basketball. I think one of the main things that I learned is to always make sure you're putting your best out there. Always compete. Never back down from anybody. Just compete and leave it all out on the court. And you got to trust that you have done everything that you're supposed to. Trust the scouting reports. Trust the extra workouts, the extra lifts. And just go out there and just compete and just leave it all out there. And, you can live with the results, if as long as you know that you did your best. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I bring to coaching, because that's what I try to get my team to do. We might not win every single game. Even like you said, we won a state championship. We went 31-1. We lost one game. We came up short, but that's okay, because at the end of the day, we still got the ultimate prize. So, you just compete, and you just try to leave it all out there.
Well, after your time, at the collegiate ranks, you decided you wanted to get into coaching, but it wasn't always an easy process where you worked your way through the system, because you were telling me that when you graduated in 2003, you took a teaching job at Stanley Middle School, and you were basically a teacher, and you also helped teach track or coach track. Talk about that process.
Yeah, so when I came out of college, like everybody, I was trying to find a job. So I got a job in Gaston County. Church I grew up in is in Gastonia, so I have a couple family members that live in Gastonia. So I applied to Gaston County CMS and some local some other school systems too, and got a job right away in Gaston County. So I went ahead and took it, got my foot in the door. Learning how to coach at the middle school level. So in middle school, sometimes they just throw people in different coaching positions. Right. I'm not an expert in track, but one thing I told them was, I'll help them get better with competing, because it was a kind of a small middle school, wasn't like a lot of athletes there. So we just worked on that, and I went and I sought help from people who ran track. People who coach track, and I asked for drills that I could help these kids get better, because I didn't want to just take a position to just take it. Like, I wanted to try to help them in some kind of way. So, I did middle school. While I was there, I was assistant basketball coach there as well, but I also did a little volunteer coaching with Highland Tech in Gastonia with Coach Bush Blaylock, because I knew he had coached some really good players, had some good teams when he used to be at Hunter Huss. And so I wanted to learn, and pick up some things, because I knew I wanted to coach high school one day at the very least. And so after that, I was there for a year and a half. And I made the move down to Florida, and right outside Daytona Beach. And I got a job at New Smyrna Beach for 2 years, coaching high school basketball, and I was an assistant. So it was great. Great experience for me. Took those 2 years, and after 2 years down there, I actually had to come back home, and I got a job at West Charlotte for 2 years. And just through all of those experiences, the timing just opened up where Independence came open, and I was able to apply. Actually, I reapplied. First time I applied was when I was coming back home, and I went to West Charlotte. Right. But I didn't have enough experience at the time, and so 2 years later, it opened back up, and I went for it again, and this time they gave it to me. And since then, I've been very fortunate to still be there.
Well, at Independence, they sort of had an ebb and flow as far as the success of their basketball program. When you played, you were young and you won a state championship, but after you graduated, the basketball program slipped somewhat. And then what happened was Independence became known as a football school. It was nationally ranked year in, year out. So when you came back to Independence, it wasn't a powerhouse at the high school level. What did it mean to you to go back to the school that you graduated from? You won a state championship for 1997. What did it mean to you to go back and say, I'm coaching at my school that I played at?
I mean, honestly, it was a dream job for me, because I really did have that as a goal, to come back to Independence and try to get us back to an elite level and win, a state championship again. A personal goal of mine was because, being away from it, when I first graduated, like you said, they were still good, but they were solid. And then when I made that move to Gaston County and Florida, I really kind of lost touch. So I wasn't really paying attention to Charlotte High School basketball. But when I came back, when I was getting ready to come back to go to West Charlotte, that's when I kind of really saw, like, man, like, the program
you wanted it
falling off a lot. And, I was at Independence when we had multiple athletic teams that were successful.
Right.
That won championships, but our football team hadn't quite won the state, but they were still successful. They would go deep in the playoffs. So I wanted to make sure that the basketball program got back to being a successful program. So that was one of my goals, and it actually is a dream job for me. So some people are in my ear now. They're like, man, why don't you go high school? Why don't you go college and take it? I'm like, I'm not necessarily opposed to that, but that's not. I'm where I want to be right now. So I'm excited.
You're comfortable.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I just want to help us maintain what we have right now.
The one thing that I think about you is I think you've been resilient, and I look at your resume and see the journey that you've taken when you graduated from college, and you wanted to get back to Independence as a coach. It wasn't an easy path. There was a lot of obstacles in the way, and you had to really move around just to get where you wanted to. Now, when you first took over the head coaching job at Independence, the first 3 years were tough, weren't they?
Oh yeah.
They were tough. And let me ask you this, because you didn't have a winning record those first 3 years.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any self-doubts, or what went through your mind? You said, okay, this is the dream job. I won a state championship here. My first 3 years is not what I expected, or elaborate on that.
Well, for me, I just felt like we really need to reestablish the culture. Right. And so when I came in, it was tough. We didn't have the wins that we wanted to have. But if you look at the timeline, and this is where a lot of people really don't understand. My first year there, we won 4 games.
Right.
The year before we got there, we won 2. So in that sense, it's a plus.
Right.
Next year, we won 7.
Right.
However, that's also when Rocky River opened up. And so we had a JV team that was 12-6 and that was talented, that was supposed to come up. And they took all of that to Rocky River, which is fine, And so the next year, instead of us improving on 7 wins, we dropped back down to 2-23. Young team.
Right.
We lost every way possible. I mean, we lost. Like, you had to see us play. If you saw us play, you would see that we weren't necessarily a 2-win team. We were right there.
Right.
We just didn't know what it took to win. But we had most of everybody coming back that next year. And so a 2-23 team that lost several close games came back with experience. We go 24-6. Now, that's a huge jump still. It's still a huge jump. But it wasn't so surprising for us as the coaching staff, because we knew where we were last year. And like I said, if you didn't see us play, you just look at, they won 2 games, they're going to be sorry.
Right.
So it was amazing to everybody on the outside, but to us, we felt like we would have more success coming back. So for me, I think, especially in this day and age, I was very fortunate to have time. Sometimes athletic directors and sometimes principals don't give you time. Like, they see you only having single-digit wins, and they're not as patient. probably because you got parents and all kinds of people on the outside talking noise and saying hey, you need to get rid of this guy and this and that. But I really felt like you need to have time. And I think with any program, like the more stability you have with a coach, the better chance you have of having success. And that's what really, and people ask me, like, well, how are you doing it? Like, how have you had so much success? And I tell them, I'm like, look, I have stability. Look how long I've been here.
Right.
You can look at some of the other coaches around the county, at how long they've been there. The success has come, So, I was blessed. I was fortunate to have support and have that patience granted to me.
Right.
Because people could easily pull the plug after year 3.
Yeah, but the 2012-2013 season was a turnaround, and that's when you won 24 games. And since then, you've had Independence on a complete roll. I mean, you have been, one of the best teams year in, year out, not only in Charlotte, but the whole state of North Carolina. And so I would imagine those early years helped build a foundation, but it also taught you how to be patient along the way. Now, when you won that 24 games, your mindset had to change. Now, when you won 24 games, did you think, how soon could I win a state championship as a coach at Independence?
Well, I think my mindset kind of changed. It's like, okay, we finally figured out how to win.
Right.
The goal has always been to try to get that state.
Right.
Like everybody every year. But now it felt like it was realistic, versus like you're 8-win, 10-win team.
Right.
You're only winning like 13 games a season. It might not be as realistic of a feeling toward for you to try to win that. But once we got to like 20 wins, won the conference tournament, and it's like, okay, let's see if we can take the next step now. And so that was always the goal. That was always kind of the mindset, try to win that state. But once we won that 24 games, like you said, it kind of got the ball rolling. Like, okay, this is realistic. It's a realistic goal now. So year in, year out now, that's what our goal is. And we try to evaluate what we have coming back and just try to work. Yeah.
Now, Coach, you after that, you were able to win 18 games, and then you fell off a little bit in 2014, but you got back to where you wanted to be.
Yeah.
Everything like that. 2015 to 16, you won 21-8, and 16-17, you won 22-7, and then it was your year of the 2017-2018. You went 31-1 and won your state championship there. What was the feeling like of winning a state championship as a coach, especially it was always about 20 years after you won one there? What was that? What was that feeling for you?
I mean, it was excitement. I'm not gonna lie. I was really excited. But I'll be honest with you. If you go back and look, like I wasn't like jumping around. I was just relieved. And the biggest reason why I was relieved because coaches will tell you, man. We tell our kids, we try to coach our kids up to, hey, if you do this right, if you do this, if you do that, this will happen. Success will come your way. And like you said, those years prior to, we were successful, but we hadn't got to the ultimate goal. And so, you just kind of like, man, like, are my kids going to continue to believe this if we don't somehow reach that ultimate goal, And so it was kind of a relief, to see the excitement of the kids, winning and seeing that their hard work paid off.
Right.
And what I had been preaching to them paid off, So it was definitely a relief to get that first championship, and we're hoping that we can get more.
Well, Coach, I got to tell everybody a story. And this is when I became a Preston Davis fan for life. And you played for the state championship in Chapel Hill. Mm-hmm. You played the last game. It started, at 8 o'clock?
I think it was 8.
8 o'clock. Well, that was on a Saturday. Well, the next day was Sunday, and we had our NC Top 80. Mm-hmm. And you had 2 players off your team that was invited to the Top 80. That was Matt Smith, who's now at Murray State, and also A.J. McKee, who's now at Queens. They were invited to the top 80. So I can remember, sitting there going, the next day, when we did registrations, I pick up the phone, I call, and I say, hey, Coach Davis, I said, just want to make sure that Matt and A.J. are still coming to the top 80. And you told me something that really stuck with me. And you said, Coach, when we tell you we're going to do something, our kids are going to do it. And you told me that AJ and Matt did not get home till what, 2 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, it was late. Late.
And they were there the next day at the NC Top 80 at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that spoke volume about your players and your program. But more than anything else, it would have been very easy for those two to say, hey, we just won a state championship. I know I got invited to the top 80. I'm just going to sleep in this morning. But to me, Coach, that was a testament to you.
Yeah. Well, we talked about it too, to give those kids credit. They had that foundation in them from their family, from their parents.
Right.
They're outstanding young men. And, we talked about it, and I told them, I said, look, man, I know you're tired, but you did. This has been, and this is a testament to Phenom too, because Phenom, you guys put out so many write-ups and so many videos and help kids out, and they benefited from that, in the past, prior to that moment. And so I was like, you already committed to this, so, you can sleep on the bus back, get some more sleep, but you need to be there and just do the best you can. Don't worry about, okay, if you have a bad day, it happens. You might not play as well as you want to. Just go out there and compete. Everybody there running the camp, they know what you did, like the night before. So just go out there and just compete. Just do the best you can, and represent yourself, represent your family, represent our school, our program. And they did that. So that was huge for them to just suck it up, even though they might have been fatigued or whatever. But that's the type of kids that we've been fortunate to have in our program.
Right.
So we just hope we keep getting those type of kids.
Well, you built a program on accountability. And I can remember that instance on that Sunday, and we were all sitting out there on the court, and I used those two young men as an illustration of being something special. And I had everybody, I had those two young guys to stand up, and everybody gave them a nice round of applause. But I said, here's two young men that just won a state championship, got home at 2 o'clock in the morning. They're here. That speaks volume as far as their commitment. When they say they're going to do something, they do it. And I think that's the one thing that in my years of doing this, that was one of the most special moments that I had as an event operator and being involved in the business. So you built a great culture. Now, that being said, we move on to the 2018-2019 season. You had another successful run, and you won another 20-plus games, but you had 5 scholarship players. I wrote them down because I didn't want to leave anybody out. You had Matt Smith going to Murray State, A.J. McKee, who was going to Queens, Tyler Harris went to Western Carolina, Raja Milton went to Lewisburg, and you had Miles Paulin going to Averett. You lost 5 scholarship players last year. So this coming year, everybody was saying, man, Independence, they're going to be down. They lost 5 scholarship players. They're going to be down. Don't expect much. I remember seeing your team play at our team camp, and I always said, hey, Independence is going to be the sleeper team. And this past year, Coach, you won another 20-plus games. And I think this last year was your best coaching performance year to date. And comment on that.
Well, like you said, losing those 5 starters, it was no pressure, and I told the guys going into that, I said, a lot of people aren't going to think that we can, achieve some of the goals that we want to achieve. I think every year we go into the season and we set different goals, or at least I do for myself personally, as far as like what I want the team to achieve. You always want to try to win a Christmas tournament, in my opinion. You always want to win the conference regular season, conference tournament, and then you want to make a run in the playoffs to try to, get a championship. So, going into the year, I laid that out to our guys. And, we had some talent. We still have some talent. It was young talent that, might not have had the same role the year before. So they were getting
They were inexperienced.
Right. Exactly. So they were getting a chance now to kind of showcase themselves and show that, we're talented. And I think they really did that this year. Obviously Anthony Allen was he was one of the last pieces that we had that was on the state championship team. Then we had talented forward that nobody really knew of was Nigel Verdier. He was kind of on the bench, playing behind all those seniors the year before. So he really didn't. We knew he was kind of talented. We just need him to have more confidence in his play. And then you have a player like a Marion Bodrick who we had, who was a game changer, without scoring. And you have other guys that came into the program that were talented. A guy like a Jalen Hinton who comes in, he's able to shoot threes and stretch the defense.
Right.
A veteran like D. Givens who transferred in from North Meg, who was a solid piece for us, and it just kind of, we had to gel together, So we took some lumps early. We had a tough schedule. We took some lumps early in the season. I know people were kind of like, yeah, see, I told you they're not going to be good. I think we were like 2-4 at one time.
Right.
We lost to some really good teams, though. We lost to North Meg, who we saw just made it, to the state championship game. We lost to Ardrey Kell, who competed in their conference, one of the top teams. We lost to versus
Concord versus Emily, right?
Concord,
and they won the state championship.
They won the state championship. Then Davis and Day
won another state championship.
They won the state championship at their level. So it wasn't like we were losing to cupcakes.
No doubt.
Losing to some quality teams. So I felt like once we got through that stretch, if we could kind of win the first couple games in conference play, I felt like we could give ourselves a chance. And the turning point for this team was Christmas. When we went to East Lincoln and we played in their winter jam, every game we got better. And when we played East Lincoln that last game in the championship game, it just clicked. It just really clicked. And we beat them on their home court. And I just knew then, I said, okay, we got a chance now. So we kind of went through the conference and were able to achieve the goals, won the Christmas tournament, won the conference regular season for a third year straight, won the conference tournament for a third year straight. Then it was just to the playoffs, and you just never know what happens in the playoffs. So we made a little run in the playoffs and ran against North Neck, tough opponent, which everybody in the state had to
But
deal
you
with.
also, Anthony Allen went out of that game early too.
Yeah, he got injured. He's rehabbing now, but he should be fine. Hurt his knee, but we're not gonna make no excuses.
Right. You never have.
We ran to a better team. So, but we still had a lot of success for the season. That's what I told the guys in the locker room at the end of the day, because nobody really thought that we would be in a position that we were in at the end of the season based off the way we started the season. So it was a good run. It was a good run.
Yeah, Coach, we have a few minutes left here, but I wanted to ask you here, you won as a player, you won as a coach there. What are some of the biggest takeaways from your journey so far, and what has been some of the biggest enjoyments as being a coach?
Man, I think one of the biggest takeaways that I've realized going through my journey, we as coaches, man, it's awesome when you realize how much impact you truly have on former players. Like when they go on there and they even past high school, when they're at college, when they're successful as like young men, just like coming back, talking to you and telling you, what they're doing now, and you keeping in touch with them, and they're just family men or they're working hard. I think that's the biggest takeaway you have, is just understanding the impact that you have with your former players. I also think my greatest enjoyment outside of winning a state championship for my school, I think is seeing guys go play college ball.
Right.
That's the ultimate goal for a lot of these high school players. They want to play college ball. So
You got a good record.
Get there and seeing some of them make it, this is awesome. So,
Coach, who's been some of your biggest influences in your life?
Well, obviously my mom's been an influence. She's a huge supporter. Comes to all of my home games as she can, as many as she can. Well, games, not just home games, but as many games as she can. Then, you know, outside of my family supporting me, probably as far as from the coaching field, you know, I had my high school coach, Tony Huggins, who's retiring from Garinger as the AD. Carrie Sargent, who's assistant women's coach at Mallard Creek, coached me in AAU. Me and Coach Terry at Olympic, you know, I worked under him for 1 year at West Charlotte. He's really taught me a lot. Got buddies that throw different things at me, ideas like Dwayne Cherry, who was a coach at Country Day, former coach at Country Day. You know, just a lot of guys, and it's going to be a lot of guys that I, you know, probably forget to name, but there's been a lot of people that's been very influential and supportive. So, you know, there's a lot of
Well, you've had a lot of success at Independence, and since 2012, 2013, you've turned it around. You're one of the premier teams in the state of North Carolina, and everybody knows when they go play Independence, it's going to be a tough matchup. Like you said, when you were a player, you did all the little things. You played hard, you played tough, and that personality of you as a player carried over as you as a coach, and your players embrace that. What are some of the biggest challenges you face today as a coach?
Man, just it's a culture now where it's a me type of culture, unfortunately. And that's hard to kind of deal with when you're dealing with team sports. You know, the one thing I've tried to preach to my kids is the more successful we are as a team, the more success that will come to you as an individual player if you're doing what you're supposed to do.
I agree.
And it's hard because people do want to have individual success. But I think that's one of the biggest things right now because, you know, that influences a lot of things when you have guys who are thinking about, you know, me or my success. And so, you know, that's a hard culture to kind of navigate right now, you know, for teams to try to be successful. But if you can get a group of guys that are committed to the we instead of the me, a lot of times you can have a lot of great things happen.
Well, a lot of things, great things have happened in Independence, and your mentality, and I've used that same philosophy and saying before, is if the team is successful, you're going to be successful as an individual. Yep. And you just look like, you know, 2 years ago, you had 5 players that played on your team. You were successful on the court, but you were also successful in, like you said before, the biggest thing, that the reward you've had is seeing those young men get a college scholarship. To have 5 off of one team to get a scholarship is really impressive, Coach.
Yeah. That was huge. I didn't know if it was going to work out, you know, because some of those guys got stuff late, but it was definitely something to remember, having all 5 starters go on and play college. So.
But the other thing too, Coach, is it might have been late, but the thing that, and I know this because I talk to college coaches too, the one thing that you do on behalf of your players, you're working for them. And I think a lot of people don't understand, as a coach at the high school level, the amount of phone calls that you make to a college coach about a player on your team. You invest in your players by trying to get them to the next level. And that's something I've noticed. And, you know, I just want to say thank you for, you know, all you've done for behalf of Independence. Thank you for coming on our show today. And like I said, you're one of the premier coaches in the state of North Carolina.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, man. Just trying to keep working hard for my kids. I tell them as long as they work hard on the court, for me, I'm gonna work hard for them. So
Right.
But thank you for all that y'all do too at Phenom. Appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much, Coach. Have a good day.
All right, thank you too.
We appreciate it,
good.
Coach. We thank you for coming on there from Rick, myself here, from all our subscribers and followers. Make sure you listen to us on the podcast as well as now on YouTube. Just make sure you subscribe there. You can leave any comments with us there. So thank you again for listening in, and check back next week for our next interview with one of our coaches in the Coach's Corner.
Uh-huh.